You're listening to Say It Anyway, the podcast for people who know they're meant for more and are done holding back. I'm Maggie Marcus, and here we talk courage, self-trust, and what it takes to lead yourself, even when it scares the hell out of you.
You know, I've always thought myself to be a people person. I think that I'm really warm. I've always thought myself to be charismatic and likable. And I really enjoy other people. I like being able to share moments with people, have good conversation, and have fulfilling relationships. But, you know, throughout my life, I started to see, like, later as I did personal development, I started to see the ways in which I kind of kept people at a distance. I put my walls up to protect myself. So I was very warm and charismatic, and people liked me, and I was kind of this big energy and really fun, but I didn't truly know how to connect with people deeply as myself, because if you've been around listening to this podcast, you know I talk about this a lot, about the ways at which we edit ourselves and perform versions of ourselves and change ourselves to be more palatable to other people, to gain love and approval and acceptance. And I, started to really see my patterns and my conditioning in the ways in which I started to be able, from a very young age, read the room, read other people, see micro expressions, and very quickly adapt myself and shapeshift or be however I needed to be to get approval and to feel like I fit in, to feel like I belong. And so, part of my journey in personal development has been really allowing myself to show up authentically as myself and let people see me for who I am, not continue to hide my taste in things or my opinions, or to dim myself. I didn't want to be too much, too loud, too confident, and seeing, how, and allowing myself, I lost my track of thought there for a second, allowing myself to connect with people from who I really am and let them see that. And so that's sort of like, I don't ever pretend to be a guru. I'm still very much like working on myself. I don't know all the things, but that's something that I really, really want and have truly had a hard time with. I think I really want to connect with people so much, and I've seen the ways that I haven't been authentic in the past, and that's led me to get in my head a little too much now when I'm with people, because now I'm like, am I connecting? Am I doing this right? Am I letting them see me for me? Do they like me like as I am? And it's weird. It's like I got in my head about it. And like when you are in your head, it makes it really impossible to fully relax and be present. That's what connection really requires. But if you're in your head, like, like you go into a party or you're at a get together or someone's birthday dinner and you want to connect with people, you want to find things to talk about, and you want to be present, but maybe you're in your head, or maybe you're watching yourself not being present. And, you're worried, like maybe you're coming across as weird, or in your head you're like, I don't know what to talk about, I don't know what to say to this person, and you wonder if like you're coming across weird or if they can tell, and then maybe you even go home and replay some of those interactions and feel bad about yourself, or pretend you don't care, like maybe you're like, I don't care, and you just distract yourself with something else. But I think deep down, maybe there's this deeper fear that kind of comes up, which is like, what if I'm just not good at connecting with people? What if I'm just not likable? And if that's ever been you, then stick with me here. Because I think even if you come across very confident and warm and as a people person, you can still feel this way. And I'm proof. I am proof. Over like the other weekend, I went with my fiance to his friends. It was their 5-year-old's birthday party. And I don't really know this friend very well. I've met him once and his wife. And I remember the wife was really nice. I really liked her. And but we go to the party, right? And obviously we walk in, there's a ton of kids running around screaming, there's cake, all the things. And there's like obviously a group of adults and people are talking. But they all were like guys that James kind of knew. They were all musicians, and they were like, "What instrument do you play?" I'm like, I played the violin for like 5 seconds while I was in middle school. I didn't really feel like I had much to contribute to this conversation. And so I'm kind of feeling a little bit like an outsider, a little bit weird. And I know the old version of me, the performer, wouldn't have felt awkward. She would have just been like, just on, cool, social butterfly. But the me now that's more aware, that wants to come from a more authentic, grounded place, that wants to be herself, she's a little bit more in her head because she doesn't want to perform. And so I'm trying to just be myself and be cool. And also, like, how do I connect with these people who I feel like I don't know if I have much in common with? And there's just this moment, you know, when you're like in a group conversation and then it kind of shifts and suddenly you're just standing there with one other person and they're looking at you and you're looking at them and you're like, I don't know what to say to this person. I don't know what to talk to this person about. I don't know what to say. So I very awkwardly start talking about the birthday party, the 5-year-olds, how, you know, I'm not a parent, but I'm like, this must be the life now, you know, like going to kids' birthday parties. They're like, no, not really. We don't, you know, this isn't the norm. And I'm like, okay, you know, just being like awkward. And you know, when their eyes start to shift away from you, like towards the room, it's like, they're like, they want to get away from you. That's how I was feeling. And I just like remember that feeling of kind of like this panic that came up, whereas like, man, I want to connect because I know that my fiance is friends with this person and I want him to like me. I want to connect with them, but I feel really awkward and I'm like afraid for there to be silence or to not be able to know what to talk to them about. And it's so strange to like have this now, this come up for me, these feelings, because but back in the day, I didn't feel like that. You know, I was always just really, conversations felt easier. And now I'm just more hyper aware. And so it's kind of created this thing where I get in my head. I like walked away from that whole day, like on my way home. And when I got home, I just wasn't feeling that good about myself. I tend to feel bad about myself when I don't do a good enough job, quote unquote, at like connecting, because that's what I want. But here's what I think we misunderstand about connection. I think it's something we think, like me, that I have to get it right. You know, like there's a right thing to say, like a right way to show up, the right kind of energy to bring. I need to know like what topics, you know, I need to have things at the ready. And so I go blank when I'm in situations where I don't know what to say. And then I panic because I've gone blank. And then I create this meaning that like, oh, I'm so awkward and people aren't going to like me. People don't like me. Or like they think I'm okay. I think that's even worse. I think I'd rather you just not like me than think I'm just like lukewarm okay. You know, like, yeah. Like I'd rather be fully myself and you not like me than just be like neutral with me. Right? And so we think connection is something we've just got to like, we've got to do it right. And then we're constantly like assessing ourselves against this like invisible standard of how we think we should be. or what the connection should be like. You know, like I should be more smooth. I should be more confident. The conversation should feel effortless. Whatever else. Like I should be on it and like have things to say. And if you don't match that standard, then you tend to feel bad about yourself. And it's not even like the moment. Like it's not the moment itself that's bad. It's really the meaning that you're creating about it. Isn't that everything? You know, when it comes down to it with things in life, everything's neutral. But however you're interpreting it, whatever meaning you're assigning is going to dictate your feelings and your behavior. So, you know, if the meaning I'm assigning is like, oh gosh, it's awkward and I'm not connecting, and suddenly there's beliefs created that like, I'm just not good at it. People don't like me. People don't get me. I don't know what to talk about. And then you start to reinforce those beliefs. You create them. And then now you're going to find evidence that's true. But at the end of the day, like connection isn't like a performance. It's presence. It's presence. You know, we're so focused on getting it right that we stop letting people meet us where we're actually at, with who we actually are. You know, if we're trying to perform, we don't have the connection, the true connection. Like that was previous Maggie. She was performing. And that's why my relationships were kind of surface. Like they were fun and cool and I was likable and I liked other people and, you know, we had good times, but I never really truly felt connected. I didn't truly feel like they knew me. If you didn't feel like you had to put on or be interesting or form connection that looked a certain way, if you didn't feel like you had to get it right, then how would you show up? Like really consider that. Like if you didn't put pressure on yourself to be likable or to the pressure to like, I gotta connect with this person in the right way or connect with this person, period, then how would you be? What might you say? How would you act? I think the panic, that like moment of like, oh my God, it's gonna be awkward silence, or this is weird, this is awkward. I think that panic, I don't know what to say, that blocks us in our ability to actually have like things to say. Because now you're thinking in your head like, I don't know what to say. There's panic. You're like in a fight or flight mode. You know, everything's like red alert, you know? And so like when you're in that state, you're not gonna be able to have anything to say because that's all that's going on in your brain. It's like panic. But if you were, you know, relaxed and you're like, oh yeah, I could ask them this thing, or I would notice an observation about this. You know, you're like more present, right? And I know because that's definitely been me, right? And then I get down on myself for not being better at connecting and for people not truly knowing me. And then I use that to like feel worse about myself. I was always really good at, sad to say, good at beating myself up, you know, I know we all do that. But yeah, after that day, you know, like after we got home from the party and stuff, I wasn't feeling that great about myself. And then my fiance's daughter was just like not in a good place, not in a good mood. There was a lot that she was kind of feeling and unloading onto her dad. And I overheard some things that were being said about me. There were some comments said, and then how she feels like we're moving too fast, and like she feels like she doesn't really know me. And I'm like, here we go again, you know, like it hit harder and it hurt because it was like confirmation. Here we go. Here's proof of this fear that was already there, that I'm not doing a good job of connecting with people, that people don't get me, that, I'm not good at this, connecting with people. And I keep trying and it's not working, especially with her, because I'm like, I thought we were past this. I've been really just like letting my walls down and being myself with her. And I'm like, man, I'm really just letting myself be, and it's still not working. It's still not good enough. She still feels that way. And my instinct was like, I'm gonna shut down. I give up. Like, I don't want to. Well, I'm gonna stop trying. Like, I wanted to protect myself. So I'm like, what is the point? And getting more frustrated. And that's where I think that we can tend to hear those things, those comments, or find that evidence and that proof, and close down, build the walls, fortify the walls. And even though I do want to add this, later she did come and apologize and said she didn't mean any of those things. She's a 14-year-old girl going through some hard stuff. But it's less about that. It's more about how I was taking it, right? Like, and what the meaning that I was making about it, what I made it mean about me. That here we go, and I use that to feel bad about myself. And I think when it comes to connection, if you think like I'm not good at connecting, people don't like me, and like people don't get me, if that's the case, what's happening is most often you're trying to connect from your head instead of just like being present. Like, instead of just trusting that your natural self is enough in those moments. That who you are and what you bring and what you're about and what you like and what you're interested in talking about, that is more than enough. And trusting and allowing that to be okay. But what happens instead is we try to produce something better, a better question, a better vibe, a better version of ourselves, a more quote unquote interesting, impressive version of ourselves. And in doing that, that's what's blocking the connection. Connection isn't about saying the right thing. It comes from allowing yourself to be as you are. Allowing yourself to be present and real with someone, even if it's messy and awkward. I mean, think about it. When has there been a time where someone was being just weird and just a bit like messy in how they were like sharing something, and you still felt connected to them because you felt their authenticity. You felt that even though they're maybe a little quirky or whatever, that you got a sense of them. And that made you feel connected to them because of their realness, not because they were trying to come across a certain way. And I think that's the key. How can we just show up more true to ourselves, even if it's, maybe we think it might be a little awkward or a little messy? I think that's what actually really builds the connection. Like with my fiance's daughter, like a day after all that stuff happened, we were, it was like a Monday morning, and it was just us in the house, and she was up, moving around, getting ready for school, and I was sitting, reading, reflecting, having coffee, and I just kind of felt like this tension between us still, and I didn't want to straight up address it directly or put any pressure on the situation or anything like that. But instead of pretending everything was fine, or instead of closing down and just ignoring it and, just going on with my own stuff, I just decided to say something small. and something that felt honest. And I told her, like, hey, I just want you to know, I hope it's okay. I'm just usually a little quieter in the mornings, and I'm usually just like writing or in reflection mode. I don't want you to feel like we're not connected. That's just how I am. I'm kind of in my rhythm. And she was like, oh yeah, no, me too. I don't really want to talk in the mornings, and I just want to kind of do my own thing. And as soon as that kind of came out, I felt a total shift right there. Like she even said, like, hey, I love you. She went to school and like gave me a hug. And it didn't have to be this big, huge, vulnerable moment, but it was just this one thing where I just said something that felt true to me. And I honestly still felt like I said it a little awkwardly, like my eye contact was going off to the side instead of looking right at her for the whole time. But even though I said it messy and a little bit, I felt a little awkward, we were instantly connected in that moment. It bonded, it created something in that moment, right? And since then, we've been good. And something lifted, the tension lifted. And I think that's what it's really about. It's just, next time you feel that panic or you don't know what to say, it's not about having to try harder. It's just trusting yourself to show up as you are, to just be there, to just be present, to just say, even if it's something small, just to say something that feels honest, and I think like curiosity helps, right? Like when you want to genuinely connect with people, being curious, like taking the attention off yourself and out of your head, and considering like, something like looking at that person and being like, what's something that I might want to know about that person, or what how could I be curious about this person? What are they into? What do they like? I think that really helps. But I do want to also say that the goal isn't to stop feeling. I mean, I think the goal isn't exactly to stop feeling this way. I think that sometimes this is going to come up. There are going to be moments where there's silence, there's awkward pauses, and that's just like part of being human. And I know that we don't want it to feel that way, of course not. But I think in chasing not wanting it to feel awkward is actually what keeps it being awkward. Like, because every time that happens, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want this to be awkward. Like, is it gone yet? Am I doing better yet? And then you go back to kind of like monitoring yourself, and then that takes you out of the present moment and it disconnects you. And then I think that's what creates the awkward moments. That's the energy that gets created. And I think it's really learning to just be with that moment, be with the feeling without trying to fix it. Like if there is a moment of mini panic, of not knowing what to say, and just say something honest, like instead of trying to sound impressive, or just be with it. Or just be like, hey, I'm going to be real. This feels like a little bit of an awkward moment, and laugh. And like, I think that when you're real like that, there you go. I think that would produce a moment of connection. If I was literally standing with someone and I was like, we both felt a little weird, and I was like, this feels weird, I think that we'd laugh, and like that would relieve the tension, and that would create a moment of connection. Instead of just being like, oh no, here it is. Like, just, this is so bad, I gotta say something. Just be like, yeah, that feeling is here. And that's okay. I think the real pain isn't necessarily like in the awkwardness. It's that every time that it happens, we turn on ourselves, and that wears you down. You're like, why am I like this? Like, why can't I connect? Like, why am I not cooler? Notice like what actually feels worse, the awkward moment, or how you talk to yourself after it happens. I've come to realize too that silence doesn't mean you don't know how to connect. It means that maybe it just means that no one is leading the conversation. Like, I'm so good at making it my fault. Like, there's something wrong with me. I'm not able to connect. I don't know what to say. And I make myself feel bad, right? But what if it's just two humans who are both maybe a little in their head, just kind of waiting, don't really know what to say. But you're the one maybe making it mean something bad about you. And you know what? Some people are just not as easy to connect with. There, I said it, okay? Like, stop making it mean something about you. Like, it's not always some deep personal flaw. Hi, I'm saying this to myself. It's not some deep personal flaw. Like, sometimes the dynamic just doesn't flow naturally, especially early on in like getting to know someone or in more quieter personalities. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, right? Like, so part of this is also releasing the idea that I'm responsible for making it feel smooth and making it go good. You are not the host of the interaction. You're just a participant. So here's what I want to say. I'll end with this. You are not bad at connecting. You are just trying so hard to get it right. And connection just doesn't work like that. It doesn't come from saying the right thing or being the most interesting person in the room. It comes from trusting yourself to just be there. Even when you don't know what to say. Even when it's awkward, even when it feels like it's not working. Because the moment you stop performing and trying to get it right and allow yourself to just be present, that's when people actually experience you, the real you. And that's where connection is actually felt. Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If this episode hit home, spread the love. Maybe share it with a friend or drop a comment. I'd love to know what landed for you. And remember, your voice matters. Whatever you're holding back, say it anyway.